You are listening to the Governor's Utah Economic Summit 2009. The Governor's Address is brought to you by Zions Bank. We haven't forgotten who keeps us in business.
So it's my privilege to introduce to you our state's greatest champion, our state's greatest servant, our state's greatest leader, the top governor in the state, and becoming the moderating voice for politics in our country, our Governor, Jon M. Huntsman, Jr.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to hand that to you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Now, let me tell you all what that aphorism really meant. Only a fool would stand between this group and lunch. Right, Scott? It's a pleasure to be with you all, and whoever wrote the script for that video, they took my entire speech, so there isn't much left. But I promise to be brief, and in just a few minutes to maybe convey a few thoughts that are on my mind about this most remarkable state of ours, because it is a state that is on the move and off in directions that I think are going to mean very good things for our population in the years to come. It's a pleasure to be here with all of our sponsors who have put this. People are calling it the third annual Economic Development Summit. This really is the fourth. And many of you, well, at least some of you will remember. I mean, Dinesh was there, Dinesh Patel, and Pamela Atkinson is here. Pamela's kind of like Bono or Sting. You just go by a single name. Pamela, everybody knows who you're talking about. And yeah, they'll remember, and the Lieutenant Governor was there 4 years ago in Park City when we all sat down with a very small group at that point, and we kind of tried to chart an economic development course for our newly elected administration. And we came up with a lot of great ideas and thinking that ultimately went into things like USTART, Utah Science, Technology, and Research Undertaking, healthcare reform, education priorities, tax reform, and ultimately cutting taxes, record levels, global market penetration, so on and so forth. And then the summit started sort of catching on. And I'm so delighted to see that we have a packed house. And Jason Perry, to you and to Brent Lowe and to so many others who are responsible for everybody coming out, this is really heartwarming. But let me in particular pay my tributes to those who were here for the very first time, because I met one such person as I was coming in. And it's exciting to have people who are here for a reason. They want to learn more about their state. They want to learn more about opportunities. They want to understand where we are in the economic cycle. They want to succeed. They want to make sure that they're part of a state that really is on the move and know how they can improve their business. So to those of you here for the first time or even the second time, I honor you for being here, and I hope that you're getting something out of it, because the purpose of this summit is to make the greatest state in America even better, sharper, faster, and smarter than we are otherwise. And having been in California over the weekend giving a speech, they're finally onto us. They understand that there are some states out there stealing jobs from California. We're one of them. And we're going to continue doing that with 100,000 people annually leaving California because of all the impediments to business there. Let us learn the lessons of those who do it right, and let us learn from those who make mistakes in the marketplace as well. This is a state on the move. Make no mistake about that. I want to thank President Wattops for being here and tell him what a privilege it was to work with him during the legislative session. He's a wonderful legislator. He's a great leader. And through it all, there was, I think, a serious purpose this year in particular, balancing our budget and doing what was right for the citizenry of the state. And it's amazing when you've got a 20-day period after the legislative session ends, which I'm just concluding right now, I've got 2 days left, to either sign or veto the 450 bills that land on my desk. It's amazing how nice people will be to you. 2 days left. And I know that's going to change. I know that's going to change in about 48 hours. So thank you, Scott, for your extra kind comments. We'll pay extra attention to the priorities that you have put on my desk, too. And I want to thank Representative Garn as well, who's an extraordinary leader and was the prime mover behind so many of the good things that happened this legislative session. Sheldon Kilback, so many other legislators are here, and I want to thank one and all for being here. The thing that really stands out as we look at the marketplace in which we're all engaged is, in one of the country, you've got people talking about downsizing and about industries that are being threatened. And today it's about the auto industry. Chrysler has a 30-day clock by which they have to have a deal done with Fiat, or they stare down the precipice. GM has 60 days to basically successfully restructure themselves. I mean, these are real-world situations that are playing out in other parts of the country. And here in our own state, just to mention a couple of the industries of tomorrow, I see a completely different attitude and a completely different view of where the state is going. I look at the energy sector, for example, one that holds enormous potential in the state. And I see, Razor Technologies, a company I visited just a few weeks ago, a leader in geothermal technologies, among others, that is working on the first SUV that will be a plug-in hybrid. I hope to be one of the first people to drive this in the next month. And I look at the contracts that they have already won with their geothermal technology in Anaheim and in Phoenix, 11 megawatts each, or 20,000 households in total, all geothermal. I mean, this is stuff that nobody was taking seriously a few short years ago. First Wind in our state has a contract 200 megawatts strong, 60,000 homes that they hope to power. I look at the first of its kind large-scale power plant that is being talked about by California Edison that would put in place the work of Brian McPherson, who's one of the smarter people you'll ever come in contact with, an investigator at the University of Utah, who is leading the charge on carbon capture and sequestration technology. You want to look at the technologies and the means by which we're going to save our natural resources going forward, allowing them to remain viable as a source of energy powering our future? Well, go visit the plans that are being looked at by California Edison using this carbon capture technology for 250 megawatts worth of power. It'll be the first of its kind in the country. And then you look to the healthcare side of the ledger. Personalized medicine, I like to call it, and I know a lot of you do too. And I look at what Deb Nachlason announced just last week, who's a researcher with the Department of Oncological Sciences at the University of Utah. She has traced the genetic cancer precursor for colon cancer to a Utah pioneer family and its 7,000 descendants, giving us an understanding of the underlying causes of disease. Now, those noted with this particular precursor mutation have a 2 in 3 risk of getting colon cancer, while generally the broader population will have only a 1 in 24 chance. I mean, can you imagine taking this personalized medicine example out to many other disease types, what this is going to mean for our state, which is at ground zero for so much of this work, when it comes to conquering human disease, when it comes to extending human life, when it comes to healthcare costs generally, when all of a sudden we start looking differently at assessing and analyzing and predicting risk that we carry in terms of healthcare, it's a very, very exciting time for our state. And I want to thank so many of you who are the entrepreneurs, the doers, the part of the creative class, if you will, that really make this state the extraordinary place, the increasingly recognized place that it is. But let me just kind of sidetrack here for a second, because I know that, if Larry Miller were here, he would be very, very proud of what everybody is talking about, thinking about, and doing. And I just wanted to mention Larry because he was an extraordinary entrepreneur. He was an extraordinary doer, somebody who was the very embodiment of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in today's world. It's a combination of risk, and it's a combination of the never say die attitude. I'm going to get it done and nobody's going to stop me. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. Larry was that kind of guy, and he taught me some real important lessons about life generally. But I want to thank his family, wherever they might be, for Larry's great life, because I know some of you in this room know it, but I've had a little group for the last 4 years that I meet with periodically, and it isn't a political group. They're just a group of people who have a lot of wisdom. And we don't talk politics. We talk about government efficiency. We talk about best practices and good ideas. And we meet about every month, and we'll talk about legislation, we'll talk about the state of the economy, we'll talk about economic development plans. We've got 2 or 3 people who are part of this group, and Larry has chaired it for the last 4 or 5 years. And Larry really had not been too involved in politics much of his life, and we got him involved to chair this group. And I'll never forget, the light in his eyes when cabinet member after cabinet member would come in to make presentations about state government. And Larry would turn to us and he would say, the taxpayers would be very proud of what you're doing. How are the teachers doing? How are the law enforcement officials doing in our state? Always cutting right to the bottom line. But Larry also had a great epiphany one day about efficiency in state government. He turned to us all and said, I never would have imagined that state government was anywhere near this efficient. I've always been a critic on the outside, and now I'm on the inside, and I get to analyze and look at how things are being run. And I'm very, very impressed. Larry was a doer. He was a risk taker. He was a conceptualizer. He was somebody with that never say die attitude. Well, in the tradition of Larry, we've got to start taking the words that we use that are part of our everyday lexicon today and start transforming them back to where Larry would want them to be. I mean, our lexicon today is full of words like stimulus and legacy fund and shovel ready and TARP and liquidity crisis, on and on and on and on. Our job, if we really do what we need to do today during this economic summit, is to begin mentally getting back to different words like imagination, like hard work, like innovation, ethics, savings, and confidence. All the words that Larry would be up here talking about if we gave him 10 minutes. And of course, anytime we gave Larry 10 minutes, he'd always take 30. So maybe it's a good thing that he isn't taking his 10 minutes. But let us all remember what he would be saying and talking about if he were up here.